Today, we're going to tell a story, and it's not just about circuits and screens. It's about pure innovation. It's the story of how we literally learned to paint with light, and in the process, changed everything about the displays we use every single day. I want you to really think about that for a second. What if every single point of light on your screen wasn't just a filtered beam from a big lamp behind it, but its very own microscopic star? A star that could ignite with brilliant color and then in an instant just switch off into perfect, absolute nothingness. Well, that's not science fiction. That's the core idea behind OLED.
So why is this idea of tiny stars such a game changer? Well, because it forced us to throw out the old rulebook for how screens work. This isn't just an upgrade. It's a complete revolution in how an image is born.
Here's the essential difference. Look at the old way on the left. Think of a standard LCD screen. It has a backlight that's just always on. It shines through a series of filters to make a picture. But because it's always on, you get light bleed. Your blacks are never truly black. They're more of a dark gray. Now look at the OLED way. Each pixel makes its own light. So to create the color black, it doesn't try to block light, it just turns itself off completely. That's the secret sauce. That's how you get those perfect blacks and that infinite contrast that makes images feel so deep and real.
Okay, so how on earth does a pixel just make its own light? To understand that, we have to shrink ourselves down way down and take a little trip to the quantum level, right into the heart of an OLED pixel.
It's really like a beautiful little dance in 4 steps. First, you apply some electricity. That sends negatively charged electrons flying from one side and positively charged things called holes from the other. They're all racing toward a special layer in the middle, and when they meet, bam, they combine. They form this super high-energy, totally unstable particle called an exciton. Now, this exciton can't stay that hyped up for long. To chill out, it has to release all that extra energy. And guess what that energy becomes? A particle of light, a photon. That's it. That's the light you see from your screen, a tiny miracle happening millions of times a second.
And get this, that whole Rube Goldberg machine of light creation we just talked about, all those layers, the whole stack, is only 100 to 500 nanometers thick. That is way thinner than a single human hair. It's an absolutely staggering feat of engineering, and it's precisely why OLED screens can be so impossibly thin and even bendable.
All right, so we've mastered making a single dot of light, but our world is in full color, right? So how do we go from a dot to a vibrant, colorful digital canvas? Well, manufacturers basically use 2 different artistic approaches to get the job done.
The first method is like hiring a team of specialists. You have a tiny little red OLED, a green one, and a blue one, all sitting side by side in a group to form one pixel. This gives you incredibly pure, vibrant colors, and it's perfect for the super high-res screens we have on our smartphones. The other method is a bit different. For bigger things, like TVs, it's easier to just make one powerful white light OLED and then put a color filter on top, kind of like a tiny piece of stained glass, to create the red, green, and blue subpixels. It's a classic engineering trade-off. Do you want ultimate color purity, or is it better to have a simpler, more scalable manufacturing process?
But here's the thing, just making light isn't enough. You have to make it efficiently. And that has been a long, hard-fought battle for decades. This part of the story is all about the human drive for perfection, that relentless quest to invent the absolute perfect material to paint. It all started back in 1987. The first generation emitters were what we call fluorescent. Because of some tricky quantum physics, they could only turn about 25% of the electricity you fed them into light. The other 75% was just wasted as heat. Not great. Then, in the late 90s came a huge breakthrough, phosphorescent emitters, or POLEDs. They managed to harvest nearly 100% of the energy, but they relied on really expensive, rare heavy metals to do it. The third generation, TADF, figured out how to get that near 100% efficiency without the heavy metals, but the colors just weren't as crisp. And that leads us to where we are today, with the 4th generation hyperfluorescence. This is the holy grail. It delivers both, almost 100% efficiency and spectacular, pure colors.
So, after all that science, all that innovation, what's the big payoff?
Well, it means OLEDs aren't just making our screens a little bit better, they're letting us completely rethink what a screen can even be. You can see these masterpieces all around you right now. In home theaters, those perfect blacks create a cinematic experience that's just unreal. On our phones, the per-pixel lighting gives us those super vivid colors and the battery-saving dark modes we all love. And that thinness and flexibility? It's letting car designers do crazy things, like wrapping the entire dashboard of the Cadillac Escalade in a stunning, seamless 38-inch curved display.
But this is where it starts to feel like the future. Because OLEDs are so thin and built on flexible materials, they can create screens that are foldable.
Screens that are rollable. Imagine a giant, beautiful TV that just rolls away into a little box when you're done watching it. And even screens that are transparent, letting us overlay digital information right onto our view of the real world. This changes everything. Now, of course, OLED isn't the only player in the game. It's an amazing technology. But to really get the whole picture, we need to take a clear, honest look at the competition. So let's just break down the big three high-end TV techs. For black levels, OLED is perfect, right up there with the super new micro-LED. QLED, because of its backlight, still has some light bloom. But when it comes to pure retina-searing brightness, QLED and micro-LED still have the edge, which is great for a super bright room. The historic weakness for OLED has been the risk of burn-in, where a static image could leave a ghost behind, though modern TVs have gotten really good at preventing this. And then there's cost. QLED is the most affordable of the bunch, OLED is your premium option, and micro-LED, well, for now, it's wildly prohibitively expensive. And that brings us to micro-LED. You'll hear people call it the pinnacle of TV tech. And why? Because it promises the best of all worlds. It's got the perfect per-pixel blacks of an OLED, but with the massive brightness and no risk of burn-in like a QLED. It really is the next frontier, but getting the cost down and manufacturing it at scale is a huge, huge challenge.
So yeah, while OLED is incredible, it's not without its own hurdles. The biggest piece of the pie is still manufacturing cost. Then you've got concerns about long-term lifespan and that risk of burn-in. But here's the key thing to remember. Engineers are actively working on these problems. There's clever software that subtly shifts the image to prevent burn-in, and new, more robust organic materials are being developed all the time, making OLEDs better and more affordable every single year.
So that brings us back to the beginning. We started with a simple scientific idea and followed it all the way to a technology that lets us paint with light and break free from the boring flat rectangle. And it leaves us with this one final, really exciting question to think about. When our screens can bend, roll, and even disappear into the world around us, what else becomes possible? The screen is no longer just a window we look through, it's becoming a creative material we can use to build the world of tomorrow.